Anyway, at 6:05, we officially called the regular meeting of December 16th to order. That's the attendance. I didn't put the approval on the minutes because I wasn't near my computer in time, so we'll have that in the new year. But welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all. We are so close. I'm really excited that we're kind of in this final stage of drafting the blueprint. I'm just trying to pull it up so that I can share the screen with everybody. We're sorry, let me try this one more time. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So basically tonight, what I hope to do going into the new year for this meeting is we're really close with the blueprint, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's provided comments. It has really been from the beginning a team effort, not only in the attendance for this past year. And you know, if we do a year in review, I'm going to take off the stop share for a second, just because I want to be able to see everybody's faces. You know, if we're doing a year in review, I would say this has been a really robust year filled with trials and tribulations, challenges, excitements, defeats and victories, and just a little microcosm of life outside of the two dimensions of our screen. I had realized, Steve came to my door the other day, and I realized actually we had never met in person. And that's been just such a strange thing, because we've all gotten to have some very intense discussions and personal discussions. And I realized I've only met probably half of you in person. So I do look forward, although it seems like the world is conspiring against this, to meet you in person sooner than later. But we will certainly have a celebration at my house, and maybe it'll be outside. I have heaters, but when we wrap this up, you are all invited to my house to celebrate and raise a glass, because it's been a time with this group, and to see that the end of our work almost done is very exciting. It's unnerving, because I think we all want to get this right when we turn it in. And so part of what I wanted to do today was talk about the questions that remain in the draft, talk about what is left to do draft wise, and then talk about what the remaining 4 meetings will look like. And then I know Steve wanted to talk about current state of policing, and maybe Jamie can chime in with that. Any questions so far? Any comments, concerns? I can't, if I don't get all of you, or if I'm not seeing you, just, you know, call out. So with that, I will go back to sharing the screen. Gina and I did meet on Monday, and we did get through a lot of this and address some of the questions and concerns. The over under is again, great team effort. Trying to get it to a place where it sounds at least somewhat like one voice, even though there have been about 20 voices, is going to be our great challenge. Ryan and Doug have taken a new look and trying to help us shape to get it to a more synchronous voice. This meeting presumes that all of us here, because there's no one on the meeting either calling in or on video that has not had access or some active way to edit. So we are going to keep it open for comment purposes for another few days, really probably till early next week. So if you have comments, like, you know, again, keep speaking now, because we will ultimately, 10 of us will be voting on this, and it is majority rule. We can make changes, you can make amendments to change things. It's not going to be a formal vote. It's like we're either going to say yay or nay, we want to support this document going forward or not. And just 6 of us have to say yes, and, or, you know, if everyone is present that day, but we're going to look to do that probably at our next meeting, and we can talk about that. But so you can all see this, right? Okay. So Gina and I, as I said, did meet, and we were working on it, somewhat side railed because we got included in discussions around what was happening in town and the Board of Ed. There was an important vote happening, and we got pulled into some discussions, and that kind of pulled our attention away from the work that we were doing with the blueprint, and we had to shift gears for personal reasons to go talk about what was happening at the Board of Ed vote for the next night. So we decided we're just kind of going to extend this period where everyone can comment and add their thoughts. So first we have the introduction. We sort of set the stage. Brenda's commentary, setting the stage, why Brenda really had envisioned this task force, but kind of the rationale, stating pretty much upfront what the tone of and tenor of where we were as a community. The murder of George Floyd had happened. It set Brenda, in response, created this task force. We'll include the mission statement. We talk about how we went about and doing our work. And again, it's really just sets up the plan of what the next 18 months would look like and who the task force is. We set out to listen and learn, qualitative, quantitative data, community roundtable, sources, expert sourcing. What we're trying to do throughout this document is, while it is obviously a very emotional topic and there is emotion here, we're really trying to stick with the facts. We're really trying to say, this is what we've learned over 18 months. Here are best practices. Here's current state. Here's the rationale. People are going to either like it or not like it. We're not saying this is ultimately where it stops, that this is just a beginning, that this is one avenue. These are our findings. And really, as I said, trying to keep the emotion out of it. Does anyone have any questions at this stage of what I'm reviewing and going over? Okay. So we talk about who we met with and how we went about to, as I said, how we went about doing the work, the groups that we heard from. Thank you. It looks like Steve added something. I appreciate that. And again, who our resources were. We are, as we discussed in our last meeting, we feel ultimately that this is where our work ends. The work really begins for a more permanent commission, a permanent position, that this could be used as a blueprint, if you will, for somebody else to take on. We're passing the baton, so that if people don't like it, the time to really argue and stretch is not with us, because we are not empowered to act on any of our recommendations. That the work will then become the community engagement piece, long-term will come really once the work is turned in, and then someone takes it on. And it's really, we feel, in the hands of a professional to take a look. So we do need a poll quote. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, now would be the time. What we do need is to have somebody look through the transcript of the community conversation about the stories. If you're interested in doing that, either speak now or talk to me afterwards. Because again, we're trying to not make this about how we feel, but rather what we collected from data, qualitative and quantitative. And one of that is, some of that data includes the roundtable discussion and the stories of the lived experiences of people who live here. So we thought it would be compelling here to hear directly, to have a direct quote from a resident who expressed what we then go on to talk about. And we'll have the full transcript of that conversation as part of our appendix. The appendix is going to be made up mostly of things that were in the backup material. that has been shared. The appendix will be a list of websites, resources. So at some point, we'll ask everybody to look at that as well. At one point, Ryan had said she would do that, but I'm going to also work Ryan to make sure that we have the complete list of all the things we want there and the links. So maybe we can talk about that offline. So again, kind of in the background of what we were tasked with, which is discovering any inequities that exist here within certain, contexts. So we wanted to move in a direction that makes a difference. We quote Brenda in her own words. We say that this is just a framework, still work to be done. So then we get into the recommendations. Some people, Ryan included, did not love the use of the words broad and narrow. Do you want to talk about that? Ryan, do you have you're muted, I don't know.
Sorry, my mute button was way down in the corner off the screen. Yeah, I don't know, something about that broad and narrow just doesn't resonate for me. It doesn't I know what you're getting at, like those are kind of overarching, but I don't think broad and narrow are the right terms.
General and specific?
I don't think that's it either. I'm not.
This is where we got stuck. Gina and I spent like 20 minutes being like, is it broad and narrow? Is it general and specific? Is it, because that's really ultimately what we've got. We have narrow in the sense of there are 6 areas that we highlighted: governance, housing, education, but by no means are they the only, but these are the ones we targeted. And then
I think of it being more like what you're saying is the first 3 are more
critical.
like top priority or something like that. Top, first priority recommendations or something, because
we had used the word critical at one point.
Can we say like primary and secondary, which are a little bit ambiguous as to what that means?
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys feel about that versus broad and narrow?
I mean, it sort of implies there's like sort of what Doug just put in the chat, like it sort of implies there's a hierarchy.
Yeah,
without,
that's why I was like,
without saying one is more important than the other.
Okay.
Well, broad seems to be like big picture, but I can't think of what the equivalent of the big picture versus.
Yeah, I don't know if they are big picture. I think it's more like these are the ones that should happen immediately. They should have happened yesterday, and everything else is equally important.
Yeah, that's why I said priority.
Yeah.
Priority.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Priority would mean the things that happen first. So,
I mean, primary, everyone kind of gets. Primary, secondary, I think it does denote.
but some of those are those secondary. I just think.
But that's the thing. It's sort of like,
Well, they're secondary to to these. They're not secondary in the overall scheme of things, but they are.
I have a problem with that. I mean,
I know.
think
That's as I was typing.
it really is more priority all the way through. You said we want you first of all accept the plan, pass a proclamation, get a commission, and hire that. Those are the priority actions. Maybe it's
Yeah, I think we left critical, Nancy. I know you're typing, but I think we left critical because we don't want them to say, well, the other ones aren't then.
yeah, exactly. Immediate action, I feel like works better for me than broad and narrow. Immediate action items.
Yeah.
And
Immediate and subsequent?
subsequent, yeah, maybe.
It kind of follows, but it's not any less important.
What about medium-term goals?
Um,
Long-term, near-term and long-term?
long-term, how about, I like immediate action items, immediate, priority. These are the things that should be tackled first.
And then Matt, you just said what?
And long-term,
I propose medium-term goals because long-term never happens because we're never in the long
Yeah.
term, whereas medium is the visible horizon.
Medium, yeah.
You want to go with like really turn up the temperature and go with urgent action items for the first category?
And subsequent, can we do urgent
Yeah.
and subsequent, which is like, do these
like
first and
subsequent.
everything else? I don't want them to.
Yes,
switch.
because both
Subsequent.
of those words address time. And I think you're talking about time. You're not talking about importance, right?
Yeah.
One has to be
What
done
about-
right away.
That's a good way. to-
What about pressing and non-pressing? Because they're
No.
both important.
Say that.
Non-pressing sounds like it's unimportant.
Yeah,
to me.
it sounds like, yeah.
I get what, Tamisha, what you're saying. It's like there is that urgent need, but I would say I like Kathy's point, which is like, we're not necessarily putting a judgment, we're putting a time frame.
Yeah, it's
And
just
so
time.
so it's like, this is urgent and this is like, let's subsequent, we can look at it, subsequent or immediate next steps. We could do kind of, or media,
So maybe we should take out either whether it's subsequent or next, but it should be priorities because they're still priorities. So we want to maintain their priorities, but somehow
Call
make
them,
the next time phase. So second phase priorities or next phase priorities or
urgent and immediate. I feel like it's not urgent. It's like, this is exactly what you can do now. Like,
Priority.
so I would say, so is it priority action items? There is an urgency to it, but it's like, well, is it urgent? I don't know.
Like is a house on fire, right, right.
So priority action items and immediate next steps.
yeah, it's pretty good. That puts a sense of urgency around both of them. I like that.
So priority doesn't indicate a timeline. Priority indicates a level of importance.
Yeah.
Initial
First priority, first.
or
first.
initial and immediate.
Yeah, that sounds good. Initial and immediate. And then what's the second one? What's the next?
Can we say critical next steps? Can we add critical in there to let them know that's also important?
Yeah, I don't like throwing the word critical in there because that's a word that is really used in the strategic plan too. And critical next is like, and we kind of abandon like using that language, although I guess it gets tossed around. Subsequent next steps, I think that works.
I think
Initial and
subsequent
immediate
next steps are
action
somewhat
items.
redundant.
Well, subsequent steps.
Subsequent next are kind of redundant.
That's redundant, yeah.
I like the proposal for subsequent priorities.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good. I like that too.
And I think it differentiates, like, these are initial and immediate action items to, like, we're saying, like, take these steps, and then subsequent priorities, it's like you're milling over it, and yes, you can do this, but if they cover initial and immediate action items, it's almost like the rest is the work that should be looked at by the person that comes on.
It's
I
that they
pers-
must follow. Subsequent
Um,
priorities must indicate they must follow the
Yeah.
initial steps.
I like this, initial and immediate action items, because it says, like, if someone's like, well, what do I do with this? Well, you take these initial and immediate action items. These are
Yeah.
the things you can do.
And maybe it's actions instead of action items, initial and immediate actions.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, great.
How about, why don't should we stick with the same terminology of its actions, like subsequent actions? Initial and immediate actions, subsequent actions.
But there, I think we took off item, we took that off,
But it's the same up at the top,
subsequent priority actions or subsequent actions.
just subsequent actions.
What do you
I
think?
thought Doug's suggestion of priorities was a good one because it suggests that those subsequent items are not secondary, they're still priorities. I don't
Mhm.
think the mirroring of the language is necessary, and it kind of sounds awkward too, subsequent actions.
Yep.
Okay.
And I like it as, I like the word priorities.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's remember that it is this language, because we'll go initial and immediate actions as we go down. We'll go back to that.
Can,
I can
just
still,
del- yeah, delete the other, yeah.
so it's here. So it's, what did we decide? It's, what did we just say? Immediate,
Initial and immediate. Didn't say.
Immediate and subsequent.
what did we do here? All right.
Immediate and subsequent.
Oh, we're all terrible. We have to go back to
It's
the beginning.
initial-
It's
initial and
initial,
immediate.
yeah, initial and immediate actions and subsequent priorities.
Okay. Matt, keeping it to you to remember that. All right, so it's initial. What did
And
you just tell me?
immediate- Initial and immediate actions and subsequent priorities.
Okay, so we'll go back. Remember that for when we go down to the next part of it.
This is just, if you scroll up, Nancy, you got to change the heading on the, before we listed them too. Did you catch that?
Where?
Anyway, so somewhere up there was underlined.
In the table of contents, the
Yeah, which
heading
is what I-
for part 3 needs to reflect the change as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought I did that.
It was in the big overheading.
Yeah.
That's okay. That can get changed later offline, out of the meeting. Right there, that's
Right there, the
highlighted.
yellow.
Yeah, the part that's highlighted.
Okay, we'll go, I'll go back.
Yeah.
So, initial and immediate actions, as defined for the purpose, are those that impact all aspects of town governance and operations. Those are, kind of the broad, that's the broad. And that's what to hear, consider. It's as we discussed on the last meeting. I'm not going to get into it except to say, Gina and I spoke, and rather than diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, it's becoming more vernacular to say a
Belonging.
community, a director of community justice and belonging officer, or a director of community and justice belonging. It's more encompassing. So as long as everyone's okay with that, we made that switch. If anyone here feels strongly, we should talk about it.
I like it. I like the belonging part too, because
That's,
it really indicates that it's a person that is out in the community and outreaching and doing all of those things that have to do with community engagement, as well as the training and the oversight of what's going on within the
Yep.
town hall too. So
good. Okay, so then, so now this next thing is,
is there any change?
what was the title? Actions, items to support. It was called the, what was
Subsequent
that?
priorities.
Subsequent
Initial
priority.
and immediate.
Initial and immediate recommendations, action items to support initial and immediate recommendations. Okay. And then again, this was just about taking what already had been done. So a lot of this, I'm not getting into the weeds because you've all had the opportunity. So the next one, Matt, if you remembered, was called
Subsequent priorities.
subsequent.
Into priorities, yeah.
Whew, this one is tired. But I'm gonna do it as a subsequent priorities. Okay, subsequent priorities impact specific areas of town town operations. So it was in these areas. And again, thank you all for everything you did, Matt, yours and with Doug and Ryan's sort of groundwork help. This was all great. Question, this is highlighted. Is this different than what we're talking about in the broad recommendations, this diversity and equity manager? Do we need to keep this in?
No, my understanding was that it was the same. It just happened to be listed in the section that I received. So I left it in case that's where it belonged. But if it's elsewhere, then it doesn't need to be there twice.
Great. Okay. So I took that out. And a lot of the work was really about there was some redundancy because again, when you find best practices, there is a lot of overlap. So some of this editing work has been about streamlining so that we're not saying the same thing in 10 different ways. So Steve, I think, well, let's go through this unless you want to take a pause to talk about some of the criminal, you know what, let's go through this and then we'll turn this back to the criminal justice and policing. Steve has done a lot of work in this, Jamie, and gave an attachment that he's going to talk about in terms of some best practices. We've taken these sections, again, tried to put them in a common voice with housing, policing, education. I encourage all of you, take the opportunity to make your comments. And Doug and Ryan, I want to thank you again for going in again and being our constant go-to for the editing and narrowing down. And it's not easy to take 20 voices and try to put it into one. So I would say, if you guys have comments, you know, do this now because this is coming to a close. This percentage, Ryan, we had to fill, what is this in our youth K? It accounts for approximately, it's like, there's arguments, but I'm going to say it's like 65% of our budget is like the known or the sort of a presumed number. So, so we're just going to use that because that's kind of the accepted best practice. If that changes, I will come back to all of you. But 65% of the town's budget is the number that people go to and cite. Okay, so we have education, community engagement, recommendations. And again, it all follows sort of like the introduction, current state, rationale. My computer froze. Am I frozen?
Nope.
My
You're moving,
computer froze.
your cursor's moving around.
Nope, it froze on me. I don't know what to say. Frozen.
It's jumping all over the place.
Frozen for me. Let's see.
Are you moving your cursor? Or is that just doing it on its own?
It's doing it on its own.
Oh,
I can't even admit. I can't even let someone's trying to get in. I can't even. Well, this is frustrating.
Can you not see your screen?
No, it's just freezing. I can't, it's not letting me do anything.
Nancy, when you say someone's trying to get in, do you know
Not
the
a-
person?
No, I do.
Okay. Okay.
Why
Why don't you, can you stop sharing it all?
I can't, it's not letting me do anything. Which only is making me slightly nervous, but
Yeah.
I don't know what to do from here because I literally can't move this.
Well, what are we gonna do from here, though? You were gonna go through this document?
Yeah,
gonna-
and so let's, but I can't even. I think we should turn to you now, Steve, only while
Nancy, can you close it? You can't do anything.
I can't do anything. So what I'm gonna try to do is just, Steve, why don't you start talking? And if for some reason I have to shut my computer down and we all shut out, can you log back in?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to force quit, but in the meantime, Steve, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, Nancy, I'm also gonna request remote control of your screen. But
Okay,
I'm doing that just to
Yeah.
see if that doesn't break you out of it. Did you get a thing?
I did, but I can't, it's not even letting me.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really too bad. All right, the only way I can think to do this is,
Is your mouse out of batteries?
no, I'm on, here, let me try to plug in and see if it says I'm full, but I'm gonna. Anyway, Steve, go ahead. If we shut down, please log on again.
So I didn't really want to talk too much about it because we're gonna bring in the experts, which is the Stratford Police Department, as far as community policing. I don't know, who attended their presentation a couple of weeks ago, but they're gonna come in and talk about community policing from a high level at one of our meetings in January. But I just wanted to make sure, and Jamie did a lot of work, is that it's different approach to policing. It's centered around they have it centered around their police activities league, PAL, and they have their, when they first started the program, there were 3 police officers who were involved in coaching or some kind of community engagement program, whether it be they led something, and now there's 43 officers that are coaches or lead some kind of programs within the community. And that's kind of the idea, that so now that, you know, their presence in the community automatically de-escalates situations because they know everybody and they see them, and that alone is, so that's also backed by data from them. So like I said, I'll let them speak more to it, but we did circulate a document that gives you a high level overview of the concept.
You'll see too, Stephen, my attempt to edit that and just what I sort of wove into it is that community policing project or concept has a much broader sort of background to it too. It's a Department of Justice recommendation. It's a big national thing. And I think that really didn't show up as much in the draft, the blueprint draft. So I tried to just throw in a general reference to that and try to ground it. And there's this national background for it. And then we actually have a local example of it in Stratford.
Yeah, well, Stratford is there's a good quote actually, which Blumenthal said it is a national model. So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. Nancy, you still struggling?
I'm back. Did that cut you off or no?
No.
Oh,
Okay, so hopefully that recording was still in progress, and we are only as good as our technology.
What's the plan? Because I kind of really want to go to that criminal justice meeting that has all those.
Yep,
know.
we have, and that starts at 7 o'clock. So if you could just, we're really trying to get there. We have 4 more meetings. So let's, I'm going to share the screen again, just so we can get to a place where we can, everyone who wants to can go join that meeting. So let me try one more time.
I mean, that means we have to go to Ludlow for that meeting, right?
I thought it was online.
No, I think it's at Ludlow.
What?
Well, listen, whoever wants to go, go. I can't, I'm not certainly. So back to this, just to end it quickly, we went through the 6 sections. I think our weakest link right now is our conclusion. It's sort of like we've lost steam by the end of it. A few people had commented on that. I don't disagree. But it's kind of like if someone feels like they want to take a stab at it, but at the same time, at this point, we just, how we move forward is we just need to reiterate, it's just kind of a end sentence, like, this is what we've done. Please look at the critical priorities. And so there's an opportunity there. If someone wants to help Ryan and me and the final team with those kind of edits where we do the appendix, we make sure all the backup material is there, then please let us know. So, to Steve's point, wrapping up kind of what January, we're meeting every Thursday. And then we present, it looks like I've asked to present on the 31st, which was our target date, which there is sort of poetic justice in literally delivering this on the date that is mandated, and our work ends as soon as that happens. I'm going to ask you to think about it at that first meeting in January. It's January 6th, I believe, is the first date. But again, it's the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. So we have 4 sessions to really get it to a place where we're ready. By the 27th, we should know exactly what we're doing to present. So by the 6th, we're going to really look at the what I hope is our last really the draft that we're ready to share. By the 13th, it's going to go online. By the 20th, we'll really do a practice run. And by the 27th, it's kind of just like the last little bits of loose ends. So
When you say it's going online the 13th, what does that mean?
meaning I imagine, because we're going to invite after the 13th meeting, we're going to invite, or maybe it's for the 13th. I think we need to see what happens. But the idea is we want to give the community, like, there's nothing to hide. We're not, I think what we concluded at the end of last time was this is not about people. We can't change it because we're not empowered to act. Meaning if someone has a real problem with something, these are just our recommendations. Like, they're not responding to action items. We're just really, it's like, not that it's a matter, there is some opinion here. We're just sharing best practices. So people can argue with that, but the point is the only actionable thing is whether to accept it or not accept it. To hire, like, the 5 critical action steps are really the thing that the community is going to have an ability to respond to. But we're not empowered to be the ones to act on it. So public feedback is good, but we're not really the ones to get the feedback, to hear the feedback, because it's really going to be up to the next person. It's going to be up to the Board of Selectmen. It's going to be up to whether we hire a person or not. So does that make sense?
Yeah, but what does it look like in practice? So after the 13th, the blueprint goes into
It becomes part of our backup material officially. Like right now, it is public in the sense of like anyone that can
Yeah.
tune in, but we're not required by FOIA because it's a draft document.
Got it.
So let's call it the 13th. It'll be our backup. So then ostensibly, and again, not because we're hiding it, it's just, it's
No,
easier
yeah,
to control
of
the,
course.
so the 13th, it will become a matter of like, okay, this is our draft. And at that point, we don't want to have to change it too much.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're just kind of hearing from people to say, I don't like it because of this. I think it's missing this. We've said all along, once we really got a document down, like, this is imperfect.
Of
It's
course.
not, it's just one avenue. It's just a collection of data that we are sorting through and sharing and putting our take on.
So it becomes a public document available for comment after the 13th, but before you present it formally to the Board of Selectmen.
Correct. And it
Got it.
will, a couple of you are going to have to do that if we want to do that. Otherwise, it's like we just hand it over without any, which I think would be a wasted opportunity and a shame. It won't be me presenting because I am on the Board of Selectmen, but I encourage who's ever feeling really passionate and committed and willing and able to, the 31st is a Monday. It's at 4:00. My hope would be that we would all show up as a group in support. My hope is that we have unanimous confirmation to turn this document in. I'd really like it to get there. So I would say for anyone who's on the fence, please, now is the time to really weigh in with your comments, to be thoughtful about what it would take to make this a document that you could get behind. Because I think we are as strong as our unanimous vote on this, but again, it doesn't have to be. I would just urge any task force member who's not sure, figure out what it needs to be to make you more sure, so that we can get it to a place that everyone is at least comfortable with. I encourage you to look at this not as a perfect document, but as something that is really good and fine and representative of the work we've done and the findings, that if anything is really egregious or concerning, to talk about it. we're moving forward in this way because we haven't gotten pushback otherwise. So we just keep going, we keep marching forward. Not because we are steadfast and sure, but we're not getting feedback otherwise. So this
Nancy,
is,
Nancy,
yes.
you sound like you're apologizing. Wait,
I'm not apologizing. I'm simply encouraging what I'm encouraging is that this is the time to talk about where anyone who has concerns speak up, because we're not hearing from everybody. We're only hearing from people who've actively written the comments, but it's not from everybody. So my assumption is that we're not hearing from people because they're in agreement. If that's
just
not the
assume that.
case,
Go with
What?
that assumption. Go with that assumption. That's what we're. that's what
but
we're-
I just want to state it for the record so that it's out loud, so that by the time we get to that place, I'm not hearing like January 13th, well, all along I haven't felt this.
Mhm.
Because that I think would not be fair to the group or the process. So I am
would-
not
I would go a step
apologizing.
further. I would go a step further, like the people who haven't been here. You know, I don't want somebody who hasn't been here to all of a sudden say, well, I'm voting no because I don't like this. I mean, that's very possible too, and that's not fair, you know?
That's all I'm saying. I'm not apologizing for anything.
right.
I'm simply
Okay.
encouraging any commentary, confusion, any sort of reaction, like this is our moment. So it would be, I think, surprising to the group, but to your point, Steve, it would be surprising if we got somebody to come in at the 11th hour to say, well, I don't like this. So let's try not to do that, because I think we've had ample opportunity to really course correct. And what I'm saying, and what I know Gina would say is, please look at this because we're close. So, and that's what the January dates are going to be about, is really just the tweaks, not major overhauls.
Sounds good.
And
Agreed.
I hope when you're reading it, you're really proud. I have to say, like, this represents a lot of thoughtful dialogue, a lot of hours spent. So no, by no means do I hope you take away an apology from this. I really think there's been tremendous work that's been done. I think it is the beginning. I think it is a great next step. And I hope it really truly is just the beginning.
Nancy, is there a password that I can have? Because every time I try to open up the document, I get like a security block.
No, I haven't heard that. I can try to resend it. I'll share it again now, but
Okay.
I haven't heard that. So I'm sharing it with you just now to the addresses I have for you. But it's not password protected. It's not.
Shared for comment, though. It's not shared for correcting. It's just shared for comment.
Right.
That's like, yeah.
Right. And which is just that's just one way of being able to not have, the 80 voices, but we take every comment and we respond and incorporate. And the only time we don't is if it's because we've incorporated everything that people have suggested, with very few exception, but then we've talked about it. So Kamisha, I just shared it with you again.
Okay, because it's not a password I need. It just keeps saying you need access, request access.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just shared it again because I haven't heard that,
Okay.
but keep trying, because it shouldn't be that way. Anyone else?
But could I just ask people to take particularly a look at the rationale section for housing? I thought that the housing sort of current state and the recommendations were really superb, but I felt like we were a little light in the rationale for the recommendations, and I ran out of steam. So I really would, please throw some stuff in there, and I'm happy to still work on that and integrate that. But
Thank you.
we definitely need some more.
And Ryan, I like what you did with arts and culture, and I'm going to add some of that too. I've added a little bit because I agree, like it was just needing to be, a little bit more robust around there, and some of the language change. So thank you for that. What else?
Nancy, I'll find another pull quote from the community conversation.
That'd
Is
be
there
great.
is there the spirit of something in particular for that section about it, or is it really just something in there that's emotive and compelling?
I think emotive and compelling based on if you look at like the
Yeah.
next paragraph, Gina was
Yeah.
like, I think it would be good if someone said it for us instead of us saying it.
Yeah,
Like if it was, show them, not tell them kind of thing.
yeah. I'll take that on since I did a bunch of the quotes. My head will easily go to that space. So I'll take
Perfect.
that on.
Perfect. And listen, I know this is not an easy time. So everybody is overworked and holiday and et cetera. So, but we're really close. So if we could just ask for that one last push. All right. Well, if no one else has anything, I will say thank you. And keep on keeping on, and happy, healthy holiday season. It looks like COVID has, as I said, other plans for us than getting together in person, but I do look forward to that time in 2022 and celebrating a job well done with all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Steve Bogan, a second.
Second,
Ryan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any nays? All right, all happy, healthy. See you in early January.
thank you.
Be well, everyone.
Everybody.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Matt.